So as I was getting ready today for this presentation, I was thinking, what will happen if I completely forget what I have to say? And I was starting to wonder if I picked the right major, and did I actually said that embarrassing thing the other day? And do some of my friends now secretly hate me? Well, while all this kind of self-talk can be annoying, it's a window to our evolutionary past. You see, our ancestors developed and used the ability to reflect on the past and project towards the future, to think in symbolic ways about reality. This can be adaptive and it can be maladaptive, and I want to explore how it functions in today's world. This fascinating study, called A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind, took 250,000 data points from thousands of participants all around the world, asking them 3 key questions. What are they doing? How happy they are while they're doing it? And whether or not they actually pay attention to what they do. The results were astonishing. About half of the time, people are not paying attention to what they're doing. And while they're not paying attention, they're substantially less happy because their mind wanders. This was true across almost every single activity except for making love, which kind of makes sense since it's the pinnacle for our evolutionary drives. This ability of us to mind wander can be a bit of a nuisance. However, it's connected to the default mode network of our brain. The default mode network, sometimes referred to as the task negative network, is activated whenever we're not paying attention to something, whenever we're not active on a particular task. When the DMN is hyperactivated, it can cause something that is referred to as rumination. Ruminations are repeated negative thoughts that do not result in an adaptive behavior. It's like your mind being stuck, like a broken record. In individuals with anxiety and depression, rumination is actually a major side effect of these mood conditions. And the research on the top actually found that rumination may be a leading factor to the development and onset of these conditions. So let's remember that and put it aside for a second. We talk about neuroplasticity. You see, from the moment we are born, our brain triples in size. As we grow, it grows too. It changes as we learn, as we experience new stuff, and it molds and folds. A great way to remember how it happens is the key phrase, when neurons fire together, they wire together. Neuroplasticity is the scientific term for such changes, and a great metaphor to remember how it works is to think of our mind as a kind of a complicated network and of neural pathways. We can think of those as roads. The more we use them, the bigger the roads become, and the more faster the information flows through. The less we use them, the smaller they become and less substantial and connected. It's sometimes referred to as the use it or lose it principle. It's important to note that neuroplasticity, while happening mostly when we are young, happens well into adulthood, although it happens at a much slower rate. These neuroplastic changes can be both adaptive or maladaptive, and we're going to explore a couple of these changes. First one is of London cab drivers, which need to pass a very rigorous test in order to get their license. They need to memorize every street, alley, and landmark in London, which is a lot of information. Studies of MRI images looked at the hippocampus of their brains. The hippocampus is a specific brain region that is responsible for spatial memory and navigation. As they were studying to this exam, their hippocampus changed tremendously. And the more years they had actually driving the cabs around, the more these changes became profound. I took the liberty and looked at the p-value, which was small enough to show statistical significance, and their R-square value showed indeed biological significance. later on I might explain why some goes down and some goes up. Another change is on what happens in post-traumatic stress disorder. In this condition, after individuals are exposed to a traumatic event, they are ruminating about it, re-remembering the trauma again and again and again, triggering each time the stress response. Stress response is correlated with a few brain regions and functions that we should kind of remember a few of their key players by now. So we can see that the brain is a kind of structure that has a sort of function. And the relationship between structure and function is a dynamic and a common theme in this course. We can imagine how and see how the structure of our brain changes its function. It's our thoughts, our minds, and our experiences. And our thoughts, minds, and experiences actually go back and change our brain. That changes back our structure. This bidirectional dynamic happens each second, each experience, each moment of our lives. Everything changes us. We can imagine how it looks in people who are ruminating all day long. They're thinking on negative stuff again and again and again, maladaptively changing their own brain structure. Which leads us to the main question of this presentation. What can we do against rumination? And my suggestion is to practice meditation. Meditation is a simple attention exercise that involves redirecting our attention to a particular object and making us much more calm and collected. A particular kind of meditation is mindfulness. Mindfulness is all about observing the present moment in a non-judgmental way, seeing our thoughts and feelings from a distance, absorbing them without letting them affect us as much. It's like a bicep curl for our ability to pay attention. Meditation has tremendous health benefits: better sleep, better immunity, better mood, and the list goes on and on and on. It's an incredible exercise. Specifically, meditation helps symptoms of anxiety and depression. And I would argue that it does so by reducing the default mode network, the network that is in charge of rumination and mind wandering. Studies show that meditators actually reduce the activity in this network. And the more they meditate, the more this reduction takes place. Not only when they are meditating, but long after. This study examines the relationship between 3 brain networks in long-term meditators. I won't go into the nuts and bolts of this dynamic, but essentially, meditators show more power in the salience network that can positively trigger the central executive network over the default mode network. This results in individuals being able to direct and dissect whenever they're not paying attention, whenever their mind wanders, and bring that back, this attention, to whatever they want. This is especially relevant since in today's world, mood disorders are on the rise, especially in our generation. Every day, individuals become more depressed and more anxious, and we desperately need cost-free behavioral tools that can help us mitigate those effects. I truly believe meditation is a great way to make ourselves better, to change our minds in an adaptive ways, while changing positively our thoughts, our brains, and ultimately our lives. Thank you very much. How much time?
Fine. 9 minutes. 30 minutes.
Okay, because I prepared a small sample.
Oh.
So.
Go for it.
Yeah.
If it's, yeah.
It's 1 minute.
Yeah. Then
All right.
the floor is yours.
All right. So if all of us could just lower the laptops for a minute, and just gaze directly, without particularly looking at it. Try to take a big breath. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. Gently close your eyes. Try to pay attention to your breath goes in and out. to pay attention to your belly and chest rising, to your heart beating. Try to meet those sensations with a gentle smile. Just observe how your body feels. If your mind wanders, it's okay. Just try to anchor your attention back to the feeling of your breath, back to the sensations of your body. This is a safe place that we can always go back to throughout the day, whenever we want. Just taking a couple of deep breaths and relaxing. Thank you.
Very good. Questions for Omar? How many of you do something like this? Meditation, mindfulness? Why so few, Omar?
I don't know. I suggest starting with these two apps that are really useful, very simple and free. This has more like actual program of like neuroscientists that explain a bit of the mechanisms. This is more like little tastes, and these are all both quite beneficial. By the way, to make us all feel bad, this guy, Udi Dharma, meditated for 9 years right here. And this is on top of the Shaolin monastery. This guy is really, really funny. He doesn't speak a word of